think a lot of the branding folks, they talk about storytelling or they talk about pretty pictures. It was much more important about getting our soul into the business and project it out, where I don't feel that most branding companies have that same perspective.
All right. Hey guys, my name is Rebranding, the CEO and founder of Branding for the People, and I want to welcome you to a very special conversation I'm having with one of my private clients, Chris Koomey of Thorben. How's it going, man? Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me. It's always great to connect with you, and that was part of why we reached out to you to begin with. I had no idea what Branding for the People did. So I sat in one of your sessions. I like Ree a lot. What does this guy do?
Well, thank God we did. So what was the turning point for you when you learned about how I was teaching branding? Like what turned on for you that had you want to reach out to me?
Well, I think part of it was just the elemental part about how does your gut feel when you see or hear a name?
Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm involved with a number of different companies, and Thorben is my wife's company.
Yeah.
And she had operated for 15 years as an IT consultant. And she'd grown her business by being incredibly competent. So her reputation was always great. She was great at getting things done, but she never thought about how was she perceived in the world. And it also hit me at a certain time where she had just decided, after 15 years, I now want to intentionally grow the business. Right. And we knew that she needed to put out a face so she could be competing with larger companies.
Right.
She provides a high value service, and she needed to be able to rub elbows with companies that have tens of thousands of people.
Yeah.
From a competence perspective, they could do it, but it wasn't how it was projected out to the world.
So for those listening in, sort of explain what Thorben is as a business, and then who your target audience is that you're going after.
So Thorben is high-end technology consulting for ERP, enterprise resource planning systems, and cloud systems. So the people that have a lot of money tend to be government or very large corporations.
Okay.
And my wife, she went through that with Price Waterhouse and IBM. So she had kind of the technical background. She's an engineer.
Right.
And then through that, it's finding a huge project that's going to provide a lot of value and has long legs. So when her company started, it was a series of projects, some commercial, some government. But then it really grew into being primarily selling IT services to the government. And SAP was her first expertise, and then SAP as the largest software company in the world, then that grew into all of the enterprise resource planning, and then everything is in the process of moving to the cloud. So part of her realization was that we have this specialized knowledge, but also the demand for specialized expertise is just exploding. So that was part of why it was so important for us to start the process and make the transition from kind of growing organically to let's grow intentionally. She had made a decision, and part of it was, someone basically gave her, kind of put her down a little bit as she couldn't do it. And and basically said that the effort was to prove this guy wrong.
I love that.
How most of the best decisions are made.
Yeah.
A big part of the branding, so certainly most people think of branding as external, is how am I going to present myself to the world? For us, the branding exercise was very much as equally, particularly at the beginning, probably even more so an internal exercise to really think about the business and what did we want it to be? What did we want it to grow into? And then from there, how would we project that out? So I think the internal branding as the first stage was so important because for her, it was a shift in her mindset. Right. And shift in how she wanted to present herself out to the world. Right. And then the external was kind of the result of that internal process that we went through.
I couldn't have said it more eloquently, because I do believe that while branding is about, I mean, it's more than just pretty colors and logos and all that sort of stuff, but it really starts from internally. It starts with like, who are we and what do we stand for and what's our message and what's our voice, and then that gets expressed externally. And it's that sort of congruence between, who you are and how you present yourself to the world is where the magic happens. So I love that response. I wish more people sort of kind of adapt to that sort of theory. Well, let me ask you a question. So consider it, right timing. You happen to be in my session speaking, or you happen to be thinking about growing the business intentionally. But aside from that, why did you choose to work with me or with Branding for the People?
Well, I think a lot of the branding folks, they talk about storytelling, or they talk about pretty pictures. And to me, it was much more like, this is a business that we live every day. And I mean, I knew you before, and I also know just organically, it was much more important about getting our soul into the business and project it out, where I don't feel that most branding companies have that same perspective. They're much more transactional and trying to copy someone else's. And that was part of where Katrina was with her company. You made fun of me several times, and as well as everybody else. I built a website in 2006, and it was 2006. It was okay. It was a static website. And so part of it was the opportunity to present it was a big deal, but it was really more about the organic, how do we put it out there? Because we're not a transactional business. We're not looking for, we're not doing direct response marketing. Everything is relationship. But to me, the most interesting part of the process was after we went through it, just the fact when she shifted to the new website and changed what she had on LinkedIn, people that knew her said, "Oh, we've been waiting for you to do that. Now that you're open, here's some opportunities." And it really was to that the internal mindset to the external mindset. And that's, I know, just as a genuine, like you as a genuine person, that was the reason why I thought that your approach would be better than others.
We're also a relationship-based business.
Yeah.
And it's not transactional. And so I think what I'm also pointing to there, what I love what you're saying, is that a lot of times we work with brands that we connect with in terms of our value systems and how we like to work. So
and values are important. And it's also like, we have this technology and everyone's focused on my sales funnel and moving people on. And no one wants to feel like they're in a sales funnel.
Yes. Yes.
and that's,
you can sniff it. I can sniff it out right away. Like, oh, I'm in a sales funnel, right?
And I feel like that's where a lot of companies, professional service providers especially, they've kind of bought into the sales funnel. They're selling a sales funnel. And by doing that, they end up dehumanizing themselves and their company and the people that they're looking to do business with.
Yeah. I think particularly for like a lot of the service-based businesses that I work with, yes, I get that you want to automate things. I get that it's important to sort of, do things in a way so that you have a system and approach, but not at the sacrifice of that human connection. Is there something that you can point to that made that process more effective or even more enjoyable?
I think it was the freedom that's absolutely what you didn't want to be like everybody else. It was, how do you do something that's unique? And, she's as a woman engineer, when she originally founded the company, the idea was it would be primarily a woman engineering firm.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's certainly where her roots were. And that's part of the impact that she wants to have, is continue to help women in the science, technical, and engineering fields. And some of the graphics that we did are very much digital, high technology, using ones and zeros to build cool pictures, which we certainly would never have come up with ourselves. And there's really nothing else like it. And so it truly does lay out a visual perspective that's not copying anybody else, because it was purely an organic from what's the essence of the company and how do we project that out?
That's an important distinction. I'm glad you brought this up, because there's a difference between wanting to be in the same league as the people that you're competing with, right? So there's an element of wanting to be at the level of like an Accenture, branding wise. And then you add in another layer, which is don't be just like them. How can you differentiate? How can you stand out and still play in the same sandbox?
Part of the process was the permission to build that unique view, and that was a break. And for me as a professional service provider, I always tried to look at how can I be different than everybody else.
Yeah,
really fits with my experience and providing that value. But particularly for Katrina going through it, I remember one day she said, I thought I was supposed to be like everybody else. And it was liberating to realize this was an expression of how are we going to be different, and why should you do business with us? Because we are different.
I love what you said about this whole permission piece of it. And I think more businesses should tap into that a bit more. How can you give yourself more permission to be different, to be unique, and to just create your own lane, really? Could you share some of the kinds of either near term or even just some of the ongoing results, tangible results, and or intangible results that you and Katrina have been experiencing as a result of the rebrand? Once
the rebrand came to life and we announced the new website, people from her network said, "Oh, we've been waiting for you to be open to new opportunities."
Right.
And so literally within, I don't know, a month or two of the website, there was a new contract in place. And, it's, $1 million a year contract. And that will, likely continue on, but it also opened up opportunities to participate in other business development. And so right now we have a pipeline, which we never had before. So part of it was that we were, it started the process. Our sales are much longer term. So we actually started to build the pipeline. But to me, the most valuable part is we have a framework and resources as I build up this company. And, we do have a longer term view of the business. So and we didn't get involved to have it be that I'm going to invest this money and I need it to get money next month. Now that did happen, but that wasn't why we did it. Right. And, we have laid out a 10-year plan from now, the foundation. So the branding was part of that foundation. And, we're implementing this plan that over the next 5 to 10 years, we think should grow the company by 3 and 4 times.
I love working with businesses that are really looking at the long tail of this, because branding is an investment. So I don't know if you had like a sentence or two for those who are kind of like, oh, it's like branding is a later thing for me, or no, I just need to sell more instead of branding, or I just need to market instead of building my brand. Like what advice would you give that person listening in?
Well, if someone is doing the same thing over and over and the results are the same or getting worse, it's generally a problem with your brand. And that you haven't provided, you're not providing a unique place for your audience, and you're not providing value that's allowing your audience to grow. And, branding is really about how others are perceiving you. And in this world that, again, when you hear someone's name, if you hear a company's name, do you smile and get a warm feeling, or do you get a frown? Or even worse, is there no feeling at all?
Nothing, yeah.
And I think that's where most people are. Like, most people's businesses are at the no feeling, and it can get to the spot where you get a frown on people's face.
I love that. That's a good way of putting it.
So branding is about, have you earned the right to get that person to smile? When they think of you, do they get a warm feeling? Without branding, you'll never get that universal reaction from people. Mastering innovation together was one of the really the trademark phrases that we came out with.
Yeah.
And that one is, there's nothing else like it out there. Most of the IT firms are telling you how smart they are.
Right.
And telling you about how they're going to dazzle you with complexity. And so part of what we want to do is that, no, we're part of a team.
Right.
You're going to get the glory. So that's part of, as a consultant, that's where, we're going to do this together. And that's a message that doesn't exist anywhere in the IT consulting world.
Well, there you have it. So what I love and that is, a central part to your brand, right? Mastering innovation together. I love it. It speaks to who you and Katrina are as a business. And I love what you said earlier about, a brand really is like, what's the feeling that you get when you think of a brand? Does it make you smile? Are you indifferent? Or is it negative?
So this is a piece that I'm conscious of. The opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference.
Indifference. That's good. I like that.
And I think for most people's brand, whether they know it or not, most people are indifferent. Which is why you need to continue, you need to add more marketing dollars, and you need to, continue to work it, because people are indifferent. You've got to create that through a process.
Ooh, I love that. I might have to leverage that, because either you have a brand that people love, or you have a brand that people can fall in love with, because they're indifferent right now. Maybe you can create a brand that people can fall in love with. You just need to give them the opportunity to know who you are, what your message is, what you stand for, what differentiates you, so that they can.
That can be your next book. So,
one at a time, Chris.